Okay, let's start with a really simple question. The chair you're sitting on right now, the screen you're looking at, are they truly real? I mean, it seems obvious, doesn't it? But what if I told you that a philosopher from the 8th century came up with a science of substance that completely flips our entire understanding of reality on its head? So, that's what we're doing today. We're diving deep into the brilliant mind of Adi Shankaracharya and his absolutely profound analysis of the material world. And trust me, this isn't just some dusty old philosophy lesson. No, this is a total reimagining of what matter even is. All right, here's our game plan. First, we're going to meet the man himself, this mind-bending monk. Then, we'll unpack his big idea about reality's single ingredient. After that, we'll look at his three-tiered model of reality, dig into the science of illusion, and finally, tie it all together with how he unifies matter and consciousness. All right, first up, let's get to know our guide for this whole journey, Adi Shankaracharya. He was a thinker whose ideas weren't just revolutionary back then, they are still seriously mind-bending today. You know, Shankaracharya wasn't just any philosopher. The man was a prodigy. Seriously, born around the 8th century in what's now Kerala, he had apparently mastered all the foundational scriptures, get this, by the age of 8. His legacy is just massive, but his biggest, most powerful contribution, it was consolidating this incredible school of thought called Advaita Vedanta, which basically means non-dualism. And right here, this is it. This is it. This is the core of his entire philosophy, the absolute foundation for everything we're about to explore. For Shankaracharya, there is only one single absolute reality, a universal consciousness he called Brahman. And everything else you see? Well, that's where things start to get a little tricky. Okay, so you're probably thinking, wait a minute. If Brahman is the only reality, then what is all this stuff around us? And that's the perfect question, because this is exactly where Shankaracharya dives into his science of substance. So let's get really clear on what Brahman is. It's not a person, not a god in the way we usually think of one. The best way to think about it is it's the fundamental fabric of existence itself. It's the one unchanging thing that everything else is made of, and it is consciousness. Okay, now for another key term, padartha. It's a simple idea, really. In Indian philosophy, a padartha is basically anything that exists, that you can name, and that you can know. So your chair, that's a padartha. Your phone, a tree, a cloud, all padarthas. And they all seem like separate, distinct, independent things, don't they? And boom, here comes the twist. Shankaracharya says that all these separate objects, all these padarthas, they aren't actually real in their own right. Nope, they're just appearances. Kind of like images being projected onto a single giant movie screen. And that screen is Brahman. So the really crucial point here is this. The world isn't made of a bunch of different things. It's one single thing that just appears to be many things. Now, I know this can sound really confusing. I mean, how can my chair feel so solid, so real, if it's not fundamentally real? To clear this up, Shankaracharya came up with this really elegant three-tiered system for understanding what real even means. He basically said that existence, or sata as it's called, operates on 3 completely different levels. It's not just a simple switch of real or not real. So, here are the 3 levels. You've got Paramarthika Sata, which is absolute reality. Then there's Vyavharika Sata, that's our everyday empirical world. And finally, Pratibhashika Sata, which is the apparent or illusory reality, like in a dream. And you know what? This framework is actually super practical. At the very top, you have absolute reality. That's Brahman and only Brahman, unchanging, eternal. Then in the middle, you have the empirical world. That's the world we experience every day. It's real for all practical purposes, right? You can't just walk through a wall, but its reality depends on the level above it. And at the bottom, there's apparent reality. This is like a personal illusion, a dream, or, that classic example of seeing a rope in the dark and thinking it's a snake. Okay, so if our everyday world is kind of real, but not absolutely real, then how does it all appear in the first place? Well, the engine behind this entire projection is an incredibly powerful concept called Maya. Maya is this incredible, creative power of illusion that makes the one single reality appear as all this variety. Now, it's really important to get this. It doesn't mean the world is fake. It just means that its appearance as a collection of all these separate objects, that's the illusion. It's like a veil hiding the unified reality of Brahman that's always underneath. And this idea leads to a huge break from how we normally think about cause and effect. See, standard causality says a cause really transforms into something else, like milk literally becomes yogurt. It's a real physical change. But Shankaracharya proposed something called vivartavada, or apparent transformation. He says the original cause, Brahman, never actually changes. It only appears to become the world. It's just like the rope that only appears to be a snake. The rope itself didn't change one bit. So, armed with this whole framework, Shankaracharya went head-to-head with the leading scientific theory of his time, which was basically atomism. This other school, called Vaisheshika, argued that the universe was just built from mindless, unconscious atoms bumping into each other and combining. But Shankaracharya posed this one devastatingly simple question. He basically asked, how could a bunch of dumb, unconscious atoms, all on their own, manage to organize themselves into the incredibly complex, ordered, and intelligent universe we see all around us? It just didn't make sense. For him, the only logical answer was that a conscious, guiding intelligence, Brahman, had to be the real cause, projecting the world through its power of Maya. Okay, so let's pull all these threads together now. We have Brahman as the only reality, and the material world is just its appearance. But what does that mean for us? Where do we fit into this picture? This is the final crucial piece of the puzzle. Shankaracharya taught that what we call Atman, our individual soul, our own consciousness, is not something separate from Brahman. It is Brahman. And the Anatma, all that external stuff, the world of matter, is just an illusory projection of that very same Brahman. And that leads to the ultimate, mind-blowing takeaway. The consciousness that's looking out through your eyes right now, the observer, is made of the exact same stuff as the entire world that's being observed. The observer and the observed, they are one. Fundamentally, absolutely, the same thing. So let's just quickly recap the key takeaways. First, there is only one true reality, one substance, Brahman. Second, the material world we see isn't a real transformation of that substance, but an illusory manifestation. And this all leads to a truly radical conclusion. Consciousness doesn't come from matter. Matter is actually a projection of consciousness. And that leaves us with one final, absolutely staggering thought to ponder. If this entire universe, everything you experience, is just a projection on the screen of reality, then who or what is running the projector? Well, according to Shankaracharya, the answer to that question might just be looking back at you in the mirror.